Over the last several years, I've had more conversations than ever with families leaving places like California, New York, Illinois, and even parts of Texas looking for a better lifestyle, better weather, stronger long-term value, and honestly, a better overall setup for their family financially. And now there's another big topic starting to dominate conversations among luxury buyers here on 30A: Florida property taxes. There are a lot of headlines right now, a lot of opinions, a lot of political noise. But today, I want to break this down in a very practical way from the perspective of someone who works with luxury buyers and investors every single day here in Florida. What changes are potentially coming, what could happen around 2027 and beyond, who benefits, who may not benefit, what does this mean for second homes and vacation rentals, and most importantly, why are wealthy families still moving to Florida despite all of this? Because honestly, the smart money is still coming here in a big way. And by the end of this video, I think you'll understand why. Now, before I jump in, I do want to say this. I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, and none of this should be considered tax or legal advice. But I am someone who spends a tremendous amount of time talking with affluent buyers, investors, second homeowners, and families relocating to Florida. And these are the exact conversations people are having right now. So let's jump into it. One of the biggest reasons Florida has experienced such massive growth over the last several years is actually pretty simple. People are prioritizing lifestyle differently than they used to. Years ago, people often viewed Florida as a retirement destination, somewhere you moved later in life. That has changed dramatically. Now, I'm seeing younger, wealthy families moving here, entrepreneurs, business owners, remote workers, investors, families with children, people building businesses from anywhere. And what they're looking for is a combination of lifestyle, weather, freedom, financial efficiency, and long-term quality of life. And when you combine that with no state income tax, Florida becomes incredibly attractive. Now, when people compare Florida to places like California or New York, the conversation usually starts with taxes. But honestly, it doesn't end there, because what many buyers realize is that lifestyle has value too. Being able to walk to the beach, spend time outdoors year-round, have your children biking around communities like Rosemary Beach, Watercolor, Alice Beach, or Seaside, owning a property where your family actually wants to gather, that matters. And one thing I've personally noticed over the last several years is this. People used to vacation in Florida, now they're building their life here. That's a very different mindset. And specifically here on 30A, we've seen an incredible amount of wealth migration. Not just from retirees, but from high-income earners and affluent younger families who are looking for both lifestyle and long-term value. And by the way, if you're someone considering a move to Florida, buying a second home, or investing along 30A, my team and I work with buyers in this market every single day, and we would absolutely love the opportunity to guide you through the process. One thing we really pride ourselves on is helping people make smart long-term decisions, not just sales decisions. So if you have questions while watching this video, feel free to reach out anytime. Myself or one of my team will be glad to talk to you. My number is 850-231-7026. You can text or call me anytime. Now, let's talk about the property tax conversation itself. There are several proposals and discussions happening in Florida right now that could affect homeowners beginning around 2027 and beyond. Some of these discussions involve expanding homestead protections, reducing certain portions of property taxes for primary residents, and creating additional tax relief measures for full-time Florida homeowners. Now, and this is very important, not everything being discussed is finalized. Some proposals may change. Some may never happen. Others could evolve substantially before implementation. So anytime you hear someone say, Florida is eliminating property taxes, or everything is changing overnight, that's usually an oversimplification. But what is important to understand is this. Florida is continuing to position itself as a very attractive state for wealth migration and long-term homeownership. And for many affluent buyers moving from places like California or New York, Florida already feels dramatically more favorable financially. Now, one thing many out-of-state buyers don't fully understand at first is how Florida homestead laws work. And honestly, this is one of the most powerful long-term advantages of becoming a Florida primary resident. If your property qualifies as your homestead, meaning your primary residence, Florida offers protections that can become extremely valuable over time. One of the biggest is something called Save Our Homes, and this is a really important concept. In simple terms, once a property is homesteaded, the taxable assessed value increase is capped annually. So, even if your home value increases substantially, your taxable assessed value may not increase at the same pace. Now, why does this matter? Because over time, especially in desirable luxury coastal communities like 30A, property values can appreciate significantly. And for primary homeowners, this protection can help create more predictability and long-term tax efficiency. In other words, for primary homeowners, Florida can actually become more attractive the longer you own. And affluent buyers absolutely pay attention to that. Now, another thing many luxury buyers appreciate is portability. If you establish homestead protections in Florida and later move to another qualifying property within the state, some of those tax assessment benefits may transfer with you. Again, you definitely want to speak with a qualified professional about your exact situation. But from a high-level wealth planning perspective, these protections are one reason many families are making Florida their long-term base. Now, let's shift gears and talk honestly about the concerns and potential downsides, because there are some. And I think it's important to be objective and balanced here. One of the biggest concerns in Florida right now is insurance, especially along the coast. Insurance costs have increased significantly in many years, and for luxury buyers, especially buyers purchasing Gulf front or near the beach properties, insurance absolutely becomes part of the ownership conversation. Now, interestingly, many affluent buyers I work with are still moving forward despite those increases. Why? Because when they compare their total financial picture to places like California or New York, Florida still often makes sense, especially when you factor in state income taxes, lifestyle, weather, business environment, and long-term family use. But there's no question, buyers need to go into these purchases educated. And another important point is this: not every property owner benefits equally from future tax changes or homestead protections. If you own a second home, an investment property, or a vacation rental, you may not receive the same protections as someone using the property as their primary residence. And here on 30A, that matters because many buyers are purchasing legacy properties, vacation homes, or investment properties. Now, that doesn't mean those properties are bad investments. Far from it. In fact, many investors still feel extremely bullish on high-end Florida coastal real estate. But it does mean buyers need to fully understand the difference between homesteaded primary residences and non-homesteaded investment properties. And honestly, this is where having a knowledgeable local advisor becomes extremely important because there's a big difference between buying emotionally and buying strategically. Now, another concern some experts have raised regarding future tax reductions is this: if portions of property tax revenue are reduced, local governments still need to fund infrastructure, schools, public safety, roads, beach communities, and continued growth. So naturally, some people ask, where does that funding eventually come from? And I think that's a fair question. Now, personally, I think Florida will continue evolving as one of the most desirable states in the country for affluent families and investors. But I also think buyers should stay informed and realistic. Every market has trade-offs. California has incredible weather and opportunity in many areas, but extremely high taxes and regulatory burdens. New York has world-class business and culture, but many people are leaving because of taxes and quality of life concerns. Florida has experienced explosive growth, but growth creates pressure too. So I think the smartest buyers are the ones approaching Florida thoughtfully and not emotionally. Now let's talk specifically about 30A and why I believe this market continues attracting smart money at a very high level. One word: scarcity. There is only so much luxury coastal property along 30A. You can build more houses, you can build more developments, but you cannot recreate this exact stretch of coastline. And when affluent buyers come here for the first time, they immediately understand why demand has remained so strong. The walkability, the architecture, the beaches, the community, the lifestyle, the restaurants, the family atmosphere, it's very difficult to replicate. And one thing I tell buyers all the time is this: the ultra wealthy don't just buy based on taxes, they buy where their family wants to spend time. That matters more than people realize because at higher price points, these purchases become emotional lifestyle decisions as much as a financial one. Now, from an investment standpoint, many buyers also continue liking the long term fundamentals of this area: strong tourism, limited inventory, high demand, desirable short term rental markets, and continued migration into Florida. And another trend I'm personally seeing is more buyers from Nashville, Texas, and other business friendly areas looking at 30A not just as a vacation destination, but as a long term family hub. Some are relocating full time, others are creating hybrid lifestyles. Some are buying properties they can enjoy personally while also generating rental income when not using them. And for many affluent buyers, that flexibility is incredibly attractive. Now, does that mean every property is a good investment? Absolutely not. And this is where I think buyers need to be careful because not every home has strong rental potential, good long term appreciation characteristics, or ideal ownership cost. And frankly, some buyers overfocus on emotion and underfocus on numbers. That's why I always encourage buyers to evaluate insurance, taxes, rental demand, community rules, future maintenance, HOA structure, and long term holding costs before making a purchase, especially at luxury price points. Now, one thing I find interesting is this: many buyers moving from California or New York look at Florida and they say, even with higher insurance, even with property taxes, our overall financial picture still feels dramatically better here. And that's a major reason why wealth migration into Florida continues. Now, whether future tax proposals fully happen or not, one thing I personally believe is already happening. More affluent families are viewing Florida as a long term wealth preservation and lifestyle state. And when more high net worth buyers focus on a limited luxury coastal market like 30A, that matters because demand affects values. Now, do I think buyers should rush into purchasing blindly? Absolutely not. I think buyers should be informed, strategic, and thoughtful. But I also think waiting indefinitely can sometimes become its own risk, especially in a unique coastal luxury market where inventory remains limited. And one thing history has shown us repeatedly is this: people rarely regret buying exceptional coastal real estate long term. They usually regret waiting too long, especially when they're buying in communities their family truly loves. And honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons I still believe smart money continues moving in Florida. It's not just taxes, it's not just weather, it's not just investment potential. It's the combination of lifestyle, financial efficiency, family experience, and long term desirability. That combination is powerful. And here on 30A specifically, I believe we're still in one of the most unique luxury coastal markets in the country. So if you're considering buying on 30A, whether it's a primary residence, second home, legacy property, or investment property, my advice is really simple: get educated before you buy. Understand the taxes, the insurance, ownership cost, rental potential, community differences, and long term strategy. Because the right property in the right location can become much more than a real estate purchase. It can become part of your family's life for the next 10, 20, or even 30 years. And that's ultimately how many affluent buyers are thinking today. So if you're considering making a move to 30A or investing in this market, my team and I would truly love the opportunity to help you. We work really hard to give our clients an extremely high level of service, communication, and guidance throughout the entire process. Whether you're buying a luxury beachfront home, a second home for your family, or an investment property, we want to help you make a smart decision and feel taken care of every step of the way. If you have questions about specific communities, ownership structures, rental projections, insurance considerations, or what buyers are actually doing right now here on 30A, you can reach me at 850-231-7026. And if you enjoyed this video and want more content about luxury real estate, wealth migration, 30A communities, investment strategies, and what's happening in the Florida market, make sure to subscribe because I'll be putting out more videos like this very soon. Thanks for watching.